Welcome to our Back to School Summit. This session, Set Yourself Up for Success, is the first of 3 sessions in our summit. We are going to tell you all about that in just a minute. First, we just wanted to introduce ourselves in case you are unfamiliar with us. We are Angela and Maren, creators and hosts of the podcast Homeschool Unrefined, which now has almost 4 years worth of episodes.
Yeah.
So first, I'm Angela. I have 3 kids who are 15, 13, and 11, and we are going into our 10th year of homeschooling.
And I am Maren, and my kids are 13, 11, and 9. And I think we are actually going into our 9th year of homeschooling.
Yeah.
Whoa. All right. So this is the first session of our Back to School Summit, and it's called Set Yourself Up for Success. Now, we have 2 more sessions available right now, and they are entitled Make Your Homeschool Sustainable and The Practical Side. The first class here is free. It's going to be right wherever you're listening to this, on your podcast app, on our website, anything like that. But the next 2 classes are available just in Patreon, and you can get a Patreon subscription for just $5. If you want access to the next 2 sessions of this summit, join us at patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined. And in addition to the 3 audio sessions for this Back to School Summit, you're also going to get so many other things. Well, first of all, just for this summit, we have a digital printable worksheet with some reflection questions, some takeaways, and partner episodes for each of our classes. And then also, we are going to give you some special savings on our app school guide and curriculum guide bundle. We're going to have a little bundle of those 2 things, and those things really pair well with this Back to School Summit. It's going to be kind of like an all-encompassing, just great resource for you. The summit is, in its entirety, is only available on Patreon, which means that just for just $5, you're going to get all of this. And you'll also, and this may be like the biggest bonus ever, you're going to unlock 2 years of patron rewards, including all of our archives. We have extended interviews with any guest we've ever had. Well, yeah, for the last couple years. We have special monthly episodes just for patrons. We have a patron-only Facebook group, and we always hand out lots of discount codes for all of our things, including our homeschool and personalities class bundle too, which is another great thing that would probably add well to this summit. So
Definitely. So we'd love to have you join us over there. This class today is called Set Yourself Up for Success. We are going to talk about how our kids are learning all the time. And we're going to give you some really good examples to help you value lots of different learning besides formal academics. Next, we're going to go in depth on how to add academics appropriately for each kid. We know that's going to look different, but we wanted to give you some good guidelines. Mm-hmm. And last, we are going to talk about dividing up household responsibilities and how that's such a good investment in our kids' learning, and not just academically, but lifelong skills. Mm-hmm. So if you find this class helpful, we would love it if you would share it with your own personal homeschool community, online and in real life, because we want to get this message out. We know lots of people at this back to school time are wanting or needing help, and so we'd love to be a resource for them.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive in. So the first thing we need to keep in mind when setting your homeschool up for success is that children are learning all the time. Now, this is one of our biggest tenets here at Homeschool Unrefined. It's maybe one of the reasons, maybe the biggest reason why we even started this podcast at the beginning, was so that we remind ourselves and we help remind all of you that learning is happening. We can't stop it. It's like a ball rolling down a mountain. It is happening whether you want it to or not. And so for us to just see and value the learning that is happening is maybe the best tool for success in homeschooling.
For sure. And so because of that, that means your homeschool is going to look different than school at home.
Right.
Or
Huge.
than a public or more traditional school. You are probably homeschooling because you wanted something different, or you needed something different for your kids. And so for that reason, it does look different. And homeschoolers get the advantage of being able to recognize that their kids are learning all the time, and get the advantage of being able to incorporate that into the everyday.
Right. And I just want to, I would like to just add on to that, because what you said is so true. We, as homeschoolers, probably for many different reasons, wanted to do something differently than at home, right? And, sorry, at school, something different from school. But what happens is we sometimes realize that we're going way off path somehow, or it feels like a little too far off path, right? Off the path. And so while in our minds we have this idea we want to do things differently, we sometimes feel this very strong pull back to
and
the way it's always been done.
Yes. And, like I said, I'm going into my 10th year. I am still feeling that pull to recreate school at home. And not that is all bad. It's not totally bad. I mean, academics are important,
Yes.
but I have to
Right.
remind myself that I don't need to do it the way schools are doing it.
Right,
They
right.
have a totally different setup for a reason. They're, trying to teach 30 kids at once, all the same age or whatever. And they're doing the best they can. And we have the opportunity and the advantage of doing something different. And so I have to remind myself of that all the time. Like how my child is learning history or math or whatever is going to look different. And it should, because we have that advantage and opportunity.
Right. And I do feel like this is maybe the most energy I spend during the day. Is it's not always getting the right curriculum. It's not always, all the things that we think we need to spend our energy on. For me, sometimes my hardest work is telling myself that it's okay to be where we're at. So this is probably one of the most important things that we can learn.
For sure.
Is that this natural learning is going to look different, and it's okay that it looks different.
Right. And, I have to just add in here that a lot of times people call this deschooling, or this is a part of the deschooling process, which is, getting yourself used to doing things differently than they would in school, or getting your mind in a different set or a different frame from the way you grew up going to school.
Sure.
Or is culturally the norm. And so that is sometimes called deschooling. So if you, we do have an episode that we have done on deschooling that might be really helpful just for this like mindset purpose.
Yes, for sure. Yep. I like that, because I have to say, sometimes this natural learning is a completely different pace than what you're used to. And the pace is the big change for you. Or it might be natural learning, or the learning that your kids are doing the best at is outside. And that might be the thing that you have to shift and just be like okay with that. Or in pajamas.
It might be a different subject, a totally different subject.
Completely.
They might be like, really working hard on cooking, or really working hard on a video game or something. And so it's going to look different, though lots of learning is happening. It's going to look different than what you might think it would look like.
Right. And so what happens then is when we start to value the cooking as learning, we don't continue to pile on a ton of other stuff besides that. Because if they're going to spend an hour cooking, well, that's that's a lot of time and energy and brain power that just got used. And actually, our kids are learning to learn. They're learning how to think. They're learning how to be proactive about things. I mean, they're learning so many things, right? And so if we can value all those amazing things that have happened in that hour of cooking, we may not go back to our list of things that we had maybe planned for that day and said, well, we're still going to do all these things, because that may actually just kind of detract from the learning. That can detract from it. So, and you may do a few of those things or whatever, but the natural learning, the cooking, let's just say as an example, may be the absolute best learning that happens that day. And so as soon as we change our mind about that, then like the rest of our day kind of just goes a lot better.
For sure.
Our kids feel understood. They feel like, oh yeah, I can put my energy into that. It's okay for me to put all my energy into that. You know, I don't have to save it all for my math that I don't, or whatever, anything else.
Right. I have to agree with you that is probably the biggest work that my brain is doing all day is reassuring myself or helping myself notice all of the ways my kids are learning.
Absolutely. And I have to say, okay, one more thing. And I know we want to get onto these other things that we were planning on talking about. But I have to say one other thing, and I know we're going to reiterate this later in the class or in one of the classes, is that when we have this mindset, we have to be able to be a little bit flexible on what our kids are learning and when they're learning it, because it's probably going to look a little different. Their mind doesn't follow, an agenda normally, and what they're ready for and what they're interested in. So we just have to be okay with like learning, looking and feeling a little different than what we may have planned.
Yeah, and okay, now I have one more thing to say too. So
I knew this would happen.
A lot of this too is helping your kids see that as well. That it's not that we're learning, quote unquote, from 9 to 3, or that we are doing school from 9 to 3 or whatever. And everything outside of that is not.
Right.
It's helping my kids realize, because they are also a part of our culture. So even though my kids don't go to school, they know that, learning typically happens from 9 to 3, or that's what they've been enculturated into. And so it's helping them also see and naming it for them too.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, wow, you did this big project, look at how much you learned doing this project.
Yes, exactly. So good. Okay. So lots of things come out of natural learning. Natural learning can be much more effective for so many reasons. Number one, our kids are interested. They show interest in something. And so when you're interested in something, you are going to dive deeper into it. You want to do it. You don't have to be told even sometimes to do anything. It just happens. And how amazing, like to just take a few of those have-tos off your plate, even as a parent, because there's already enough of those. There are so many of those. You have to do this. You have to do this. To take a few of those off your relationship with your child, and that tension and then the pressure. I mean, it just really kind of diffuses that. And the motivation is there for them.
Right. So when kids are more interested in something and they are more motivated to do it, that means they are learning more at that time, right? And I mean, you can think about this in terms of your own self. If you are interested in something, you have a motivation to figure out how to do it, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know what that would be. Let's say you are super, like me, I'm super interested in talking about personalities and learning about personality types. I will read a book, listen to podcasts, talk to my friends, look at social media accounts that have to do with personality types. And I will saturate my brain with that stuff, I am excitedly talking about it. That is because I am interested and excited, I am motivated, and I am learning more about it. Now, somebody else who is not quite interested in that, right? and you know them. Like
Yeah.
if you're, I know them, right? I excitedly talk about this stuff to them and they might have a glazed over look. Like, what did you say? I'm just not into that. Those people might catch one or two things that I'm saying. They
Sure.
might kind of get the general gist, but they're not internalizing or learning much about it because they're just not excited.
Right.
So the same thing happens with kids.
Absolutely. Yes, that's so true. And it's more with this interest-based learning happens when it happens, it's more of this feeling of like, I get to do this. I have the freedom to do this instead of feeling like being told, when you're being told to do something all day, it just feels so much different. You feel like you have more autonomy and more power in your own learning. And then you learn that's this is where it's at, and you continue to do that, and so that's
Right.
like a lifelong skill to
For
find
sure.
the thing
For
you love
sure.
working on.
For sure.
Also, like I kind of said, it really diffuses your any or some tension in your relationship with your kids, and so you feel more connected. You enjoy your relationship together. Our kids are enjoying this homeschool experience so much more. So there's just like this joyful side of it.
Right. So I think studies have shown, I don't have the receipts to back this up. I just know studies have shown that that when you are feeling love and connected and good, strong feelings
yes.
with people that you're around, people that you're around. So that might be your parents and kids and siblings or whatever. If you're feeling those good feelings, you are going to be able to learn much better. If you are not, like let's say you're fighting with your kid at the moment, learning is not going to happen at that time.
Right.
So when you're in relationship together, connected, enjoying something, it means that they are going to absorb the information much easier.
Yes, exactly. And I have to say, you do have the receipts for those. With all the books
Okay.
that we ever talk about on our
I know.
podcast says that. So you probably
I know.
can't think of them right at that moment. And then also, I think we've both experienced that in our own
Oh yeah.
families too, for sure. And this is like the rich learning that you've dreamt your kid, you've dreamt of. You thought, like, oh, if only my kid would get so excited about something. Well, maybe it's just because, you picked the thing and they didn't. It might just be that. Maybe they just need to pick the thing to learn about. And that could
for
change
sure.
everything. So it's just going to maybe look a little different than what you expect.
Right. Natural learning is also much more effective because they are making connections to real life. So, I mean, I know I've been in that place before where it's like, when am I ever going to need this? Right. I've thought that. My kids have asked me those questions. But when you are into something because you're into it, because you have a natural love for it. Like, let's say, I have one child who's really into cooking. I know you do too, Marin.
Yes.
And that's a real easy example, but that is a way for them to learn so many different skills,
Yes.
so many different things that even are academic, but we aren't noticing it. And
Absolutely.
they can see the connection. They can see like, I am going to need this skill, and I can see it too. So it makes it much more meaningful.
Now, I have to say, there's another part of that where sometimes during natural learning, you're thinking as the parent, when are they ever going to need this skill? For example, when you get all your boxes, all your things delivered to you from, Amazon or Target or whatever, you get all these boxes and the kids turn them into, I don't know, forts or a robot, or, I mean, seriously, I have a child who just who's like basically living in a box right now. And sometimes I just think like, why, there's so many other practical things you could be learning right now. But I have to say, so many of the skills that happen in building a fort, even together with siblings or on their own when they're planning it's like the spatial stuff, this fine motor skills. There are just, I could list a million. All those things can be translated into so many things.
Oh yeah, that's engineering
this
for
is the precursor
an
to
8-year-old.
engineering. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, or to interior design or architecture or
Yeah.
I mean a million other things too. Coding even, just like there's like when this happens and this happens, or there's just it's an infinite, there are infinite possibilities. So I just have to say, whatever the thing is that they're into right now, that doesn't mean they're going to keep doing that. My kid is not going to be living in a box forever. I know that. And I know that. And it's just the skills are getting developed now at an age appropriate level too.
Yeah.
So like architecture, for example, sometimes people don't get into that until they're in college or after. And at that time, you learn it at such a high level. You you get into it at a college level. Whereas, my 11-year-old is getting into it now as an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
And so by the time, if this child ever decides to do architecture, they'll have 10 years of experience.
Yeah.
Or something,
And
So,
you know what? Your
this is
child
amazing.
might not decide, it may not translate into architecture or
Of course,
engineering
yes.
or something. And that is also fine.
It
These
is
are also
fun.
great skills. And you will be sad when you don't have your living room overtaken someday by boxes.
I know.
I know it's hard to see right
I tell myself that
now.
every day. I'm going to miss this.
Let's talk about some examples. I know we've already talked
We
about a
have.
few just in conversation, but
Yeah.
for younger kids, what are some examples of just natural learning that happens all the time?
Well, I think a huge thing is, playing games, for example. You have kid-appropriate games. Those are all just very natural ways of learning. And reading books together. I mean, reading books together is such a powerful way of learning at such a young age, because it don't feel like really learning. You're just sitting side by side and cuddling, and it just feels good and safe. And so when you're pairing like a good and safe experience with learning, that is just like ultimate. It's the ultimate.
And I think we would agree that if that's all you do for homeschool for that younger age, you've done a lot. You've done a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, you can pat yourself on the back.
Yes, absolutely. So much. Anything else? Let's see.
Other things. When you're, when your kids are playing creatively, and they might be like, playing house or playing blocks or doing dress up or creating a play together or something.
Oh yeah.
And it is like interrupting your academic time, the time that you thought that they would be like maybe getting to math right now, but they're too busy doing their creative play. That happened to me every day. Every day.
Yes.
Every day when my kids were younger. Every day. And I needed to remind myself, and now, it got easier as the time went on, but I needed to remind myself that is so important. What they were doing, playing creatively, figuring out relationships, working things out, that was the most important thing that they could be doing.
Absolutely.
At that moment. Much better than the math we had to get to.
I remember specifically one day, like I finally had cleaned up the kitchen after breakfast, which sometimes took all morning or didn't happen at all. But like if I think that morning I finished cleaning up the kitchen, I thought, okay, well, I've really got my stuff together today and we are going to start academics. And so I walked into the living room to make a big announcement. We're going to start school today. And I'd walked in and my mouth started opening up and I just stopped because there was this elaborate dress up thing happening. I think there was maybe a restaurant in play, which was huge for my kids. Huge. Like they played a restaurant every day for so many years, and there's so many costumes and get-ups and menus and bills were happening and money was getting exchanged. And then I looked, I was half looking in the living room and then half looking at our dining room table that was filled with art supplies, and there some kids were painting or something, and I was like, I was like, are we ever, in my mind my first reaction was, are we ever gonna get anything done around here? And I just had to wake myself up and say, this is the learning. This is happening. This is the learning. I couldn't have planned a better lesson. I couldn't have planned this better. They did it all on their own, and it's happening.
Yep.
Automatically. So I let it happen.
Right.
And that happened probably every day. Yeah. At some point.
Yes. And then, just other things that you maybe aren't thinking of, but like having a snack, going outside, things like that are all really important. Things that you can count. You should count them for school.
Absolutely.
Because lots of learning is happening, although it's not the kind that you've been told is most important.
Yep. Absolutely.
When we have older kids, it's similar.
Yeah.
It's similar. Well, it's similar for all of us, right? But as the kids get older, it might just look a little bit different.
Right. Yeah.
One of my kids talks to me constantly about what words mean. He is listening to audiobooks all the time, and he is pausing to ask me what a word means. And most of the time I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, but a lot of times we look it up, and then he is synthesizing in his mind, what the story means with that word that he now knows the meaning of. And that is something that I can't plan.
Yeah.
If I did a vocabulary lesson, it would not stick like that.
And you probably wouldn't have picked those words.
And it would be boring. The words that I would pick for the vocabulary lesson in that moment would be very boring, and they wouldn't mean anything to him. And so I am learning to, though it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm 10 years in, and this is really hard. I am trying to tell myself that those things count, and those things count more than something I could have planned.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, wow, you just got like a free lesson. I mean, almost like, I didn't even do anything. This is amazing. Yeah. That kind of stuff happens a lot when you value this mentality that our kids are always learning. You just realize, wow, this is just a freebie. This happens all the time. My son and I, my 11-year-old son and I go for a walk every morning with our dog. We have been lately anyway. And he likes to predict. He's kind of has this kind of mathematical mind. He likes to predict how many geese we're going to see by this pond that we walk past every day. And so he likes to he wants me to predict first. See, this is all part of his strategic thinking. He wants me to predict first. Like I'll say 10. And then he will predict, he'll make a prediction so that he's guaranteed to win. Like he tries to do this every day. So he will say like, I'm going to predict 9.9, give or take 0.2 or something. And so like we've been having these great conversations, and this is invigorating to him. He loves talking numbers. And so like we have these invigorating conversations about decimal points and how far out you could go to the 1/100th, 1/1000th or whatever, and then how far away that is from the whole number. And so we're just like, we're comparing decimals. We've been comparing decimals for like the last month.
Wow.
On these walks. And I just think, again, I couldn't have planned a better lesson. It would have been so boring. And it wouldn't have gotten internalized the way it is right now while we're on a walk in the morning.
Right. I have to applaud you.
Yeah.
Because I might be like, I'm just trying to listen to my podcast here. So I applaud you for sticking with that conversation. I'm sure that wasn't easy. And maybe now that you've done it a few days, you're like expecting it.
Yeah, totally.
Might be kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the same conversation every day. But it's so fun for him. And it's not long. We don't do it long. I have to say the thing that we can get, this is the trap we can get caught in sometimes when we think about learning this way. We think, well, our kids are interested in this, so I'm just going to like go all the way 1,000% on this topic. And that's kind of dangerous, because then your kids could burn out on the thing that they actually are excited about. So I don't want to talk too much about that. And I don't want to be like, oh, if you want to talk about decimals,
Have I got a lesson for
Whoa,
you?
I could tell you and then go to the next level, but I'm not going to do that yet until I know that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
as our kids are getting older,
like
one thing
high school
into even high school, but actually this example I'm going to give could really be for any age, but my kids just did this yesterday. Like I said, my kids are 15, 13, and 11. They are taking a trip to our cabin for the weekend. I am not going with. Their dad is going with them. And he told them, if you guys want to go, I'm going to come home from work and you need to be ready to go. And you need to have everything packed. You need to have all the food planned. You need to have my truck cleaned out before I come home. You need to have all of this done. And so yesterday they worked so hard. Now, what they had to do was a couple days ahead, they made a menu, the three of them.
Nice.
They made a menu. They
dream.
ordered the groceries.
Yeah.
They ordered the groceries.
Yeah.
So and then they had to figure out like what time should we have the groceries delivered, because we do it through Shipt. So they got the groceries delivered like 2 hours before they were going to leave. And then all day yesterday they were like, okay, guys, let's get together. We need to clean Dad's truck. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Now, does everybody have all their personal stuff packed? We're going to all have all of our personal stuff packed by this time.
Wow.
Then they all got together and did all the group stuff together. One of them did the groceries in the cooler. One of them did all of the luggage pieces. One of them did all the miscellaneous or whatever. And by the time he got home, they were all ready to go. And I thought, this is amazing.
It's amazing.
Because this is what I do when we are by myself. I usually do this all by myself.
When you go with, you're often just taking that all on.
And it stresses me out. And this is what adults do when they are going to go on a trip somewhere. And my kids just got all this good real life experience in doing the whole thing by themselves.
I was just thinking, when you said that, I was thinking, man, I wish any group project I did in college had that responsible of people involved. You know what I mean? Like that is something like you can't be there when your kids are at college to remind them to be part of a group project like that or something. Yeah. And they're getting that
totally.
Well,
a couple things. They wanted to go to the cabin, and he was like, "If you want to go, this has to happen, and we need to leave by this time, and I'm not getting home till late." So there was incentive for them. Also, I have 3 kids. Some work harder than others. Some are those like group project leaders.
Yep.
And some are not, but are still motivated to do it and still learning a lot. So I was real happy with that.
Yep. That's great. I also love for older kids current events. My oldest, my 13-year-old especially, is super into current events. So anything we learn about something that's happening today, she's super motivated to learn about the history of that thing. And so that is like she loves reading the news.
Yeah.
She loves reading the news. I know it is really awesome. And so I've given her more screen time because of that kind of stuff, and I am not sorry about it. It's just the greatest.
It's so great.
She is really oftentimes educating me now about what's happening in the world today and why it's happening, and what happened because of this. This thing happened because of all these other events that have taken place. So I'm just like, oh my goodness, thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you had said like, all right, we're going to have a lesson on how a bill becomes a law or whatever.
Branches of government. I mean, checks and balances, which we do have conversations about those kind of things.
Right.
But in context about what's happening right now.
Right, because she's bringing it up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, I think we should move on to the next section. What do you think, Mara?
I do.
All right.
Definitely.
So the next thing to keep in mind when setting up your homeschool for success is that we prioritize natural learning, and then we are going to add in academics slowly. Slowly. So I know you're probably thinking like, okay, all of that natural learning is great. I love what you're saying.
In theory.
And my kids need to learn some math or like... And I have these specific goals for them.
Yes.
And I agree.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are also thinking like the way, like how I described it before, which is this is how I am. Oftentimes you wanted to do things differently in theory, and then like when it's actually happening, for me, when it's actually happening, you're going off course from like the normal like cultural way to educate your children, and it looks so much different. You might start to freak out and be like, "Oh my goodness, we have to do something that looks more traditional. I just can't handle this."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's how I was when my kids were younger.
Right.
Definitely.
But when they're younger is when you really don't need to as much.
Exactly.
So that's
Yes.
really unfortunate. You and
Yeah.
I were talking like if I had a new baby right now, like how how I would hopefully do things differently. But anyway,
Yep.
so it's important that when they are younger, for me, the way that I think about it is when they're younger, a lot of this natural learning happens, and you might have a little bit of formal academics, right? Like a teeny bit. And then as they get older and as they're able to more maturely handle it, or they're developing going through their developmental stages, that's when you add in more academics, right?
Yes.
And so as they age, it becomes a bigger portion of their time.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I have to say, like, as when they're younger, I feel like our goal needs to be to get them to love learning. That is our goal, because that's if they love learning, they will learn the rest of their lives. They will learn
Right.
anything the rest of their lives, or almost anything. If you teach them how to ask questions, wonder,
Yeah.
experiment with things. These are all skills that will serve them forever, and not only in their education, but like in their job, in their relationships, in their just like their life. And so I feel like up to, I would say probably third grade. We always say around third grade, but like this is different for maturity wise and developmentally for every child. But right up to about third grade, I feel like so much of the learning is just getting them excited about learning, about thinking, about talking about ideas and those kind of things. And so they have this foundation and this skill, this priceless skill, so that when they get a little bit older, you put something in front of them that looks kind of challenging. They know what to do with that. They might not know right away, but they will when they're ready for it. And we talk about this a lot, especially about reading, and I would say reading and math. We can force them to do those things at any time, starting at age 4 or 5 or whatever. But if you want them to love to read or get excited about doing math, wait until it's the right time for them to do it. And then they'll learn it oftentimes, in a fraction of the time that you maybe would have taught to them in the first place.
Right. So they are at a young age realizing or learning that learning is fun. Learning is exciting.
Yes.
Learning new things is exhilarating.
Exactly.
Because this whole time I've been doing things I'm really interested in. And so then when you add in a little bit of math or add in a little bit of reading at an age appropriate time, hopefully, now I know this doesn't always happen, but hopefully they are excited about that.
Yep.
Because they've learned, or they've known that learning is fun, and being challenged is also exciting.
Yep. Exactly.
Appropriately challenged.
Yeah. And they need to develop their own drive to do those things. If you are working harder than your child on learning something, then they haven't learned their own drive for that, to learn.
Yeah.
So it really should be almost the opposite. Like, they're doing the work. They can do the work if we've set it up properly.
Yeah. I have to say, there have been times when I have worked harder than my child at getting them
I
to
think
be
we all
interested in
have.
something. We've all done that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's a good way to put it for me to remember.
Yeah.
That something needs to change. If I feel like I'm doing more work than they are, something needs to change.
Right.
Something.
Yep.
So I think for like most academic subjects, once they are developmentally ready, learning will happen quicker, right?
Absolutely.
And so I always think about your child learning to walk. There usually isn't this pressure. We all know that it's going to happen at sometime between age 1 and 2, or 1 and 1.5. It's probably going to happen. And we don't need to practice because they will pick it up.
Right.
I'm not saying that happens with every academic subject, but I do try and keep that in mind, knowing that when their brain is ready, it will click easier than if we try and push it ahead of time.
And as soon as they start walking, we don't say, okay, let's move on to running. Let's try this. How about jumping tomorrow? We don't do that. We celebrate the walking for months and months and months. We just keep watching them get better at that thing and enjoy it and have fun with it. So, and that's what we want. That's what we want for our kids.
Right. For sure.
Yep. All right. So especially for younger kids, let's think especially about younger kids. We've talked about this a little, but we did not, neither of us really pushed our kids to read. And
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I didn't, it's okay. I have 3 kids. My oldest was an eager and excited learner. Mm-hmm. And so I think I went with that. So it might have looked, I don't think I at all pushed her, but I was excited that she was excited at a young age. But I learned as I had children, and then my youngest was not an eager and excited reader. And so I did not push at all in that time. And I think I am so glad, because what I did was surround him with good, a literature-rich environment. We always have a lot of books around, and I read aloud to him a lot, and he listens to a lot of audiobooks. He still does. Mm-hmm. And eventually it happened for him, but it was much later than is expected, and especially in a traditional school environment. I mean, he was 10. And the good thing about that was that I wasn't worried.
Right.
Which I think if it had been my oldest or my second, I would have been probably worried about that.
Sure.
And probably would have pushed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have to say, I mean, I think I knew our kids, especially my oldest, had some learning differences. And I think because of that, I didn't push as much. But I think that probably should have just happened no matter what, whether she had learning differences or not. But I also think because I didn't push, because I didn't make her feel bad, that that she wasn't reaching the things, the milestones that most kids her age maybe were reaching when she was younger, because she wasn't feeling bad about those kind of things at all, and she was loving especially audiobooks. Mm-hmm. Audiobooks were just her favorite. Because we did those things, we created this environment of just the love of reading, whether we could read or not, whether anybody
the love of stories,
the love of stories, the love of literature, the love of a good writing too. I would read aloud all the time too when my kids were younger. And so those were the things I did. And I have to say, she's an amazing reader now at 13. And I couldn't have made her any better by pushing her earlier. Yeah.
But that's really hard to see when you don't see the end game. Now she's 13 and a great reader.
Right.
But I think it's hard for people when your child is 8, 9, struggling.
I kind of thought I really thought, I don't think she's ever going to learn these things ever. I did, because she was my oldest.
Yeah.
I just hadn't seen it yet. And so if you don't know that, we're here to tell you, it's,
It eventually happens.
It eventually happens.
It eventually happens. And then I would say for my son, it once he hit about 10, it wasn't like we sat down with the phonics books and he was really ready to go through them. He just kind of picked it up.
Yeah.
And it was really quick.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that would be the case for everyone. I'm not a reading specialist, but I do know that I am so glad I didn't struggle from like age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I just let it happen naturally.
Yep. Yeah. And so we did, like I said, we did a lot of reading aloud and audiobooks. Those were huge, huge, huge. And then independent reading, meaning they opened books and looked at them a lot if they couldn't read. And then also writing. Writing happens so naturally though. And I when they were younger, and I'm saying like third grade and younger probably, I don't know if I ever corrected any spelling or any mistakes. It was just the fostering a love of writing. It was writing for the restaurant, or writing for the menu in the restaurant, or maybe it was an idea they had and I just like scribbled it down for them. A lot of times it was just me writing for them their ideas, because that's writing. And so when they're younger, it's just finding the way they love to do it. That's natural for them.
Right. So besides reading and writing, the other things that we did when our kids were younger is had lots of toys and games.
Yes,
lots of toys and games around. And, the games might be, it could be anything, but it might be a little academic-y if you want. And that provided, that made it exciting, like we were talking about earlier. That made it fun. That made it interesting, so that they know that like, oh, hey, doing math in this game is actually fun.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Math is fun.
Yeah. And then also lots of good sensory experiences are good for kids. That really actually is the precursor developmentally to writing, for sure, is
for sure.
To the physicalness of writing anyway. Handwriting and things like that, the small motor skills, the large motor skills, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, playing basketball, you could say, is great for writing.
Putting puzzles together.
Right.
Doing art, like using a paintbrush or their fingers.
Sewing something. Even just, like kitchen, little kitchen work or something.
Yep.
Yeah. All of that.
Right.
So great.
And then as kids get older, like above third grade and maybe that middle school age, we are adding in more academics, a little bit more formal academics, but they are in small doses, mixed in with their interests. So I would say, 2 of my kids are in this age group right now, and they are mostly doing what they're interested in during the day. A lot of that's all learning. Again, it's like they're learning a ton within their interests. They are also, I'm sprinkling in some academics. And at this age, they want to do that. They're more interested in it. They want to make sure they're doing math. They want to make sure they're, learning some history. And
some
so
kids
we
more
are
than other, for sure.
Some
kids are really like, I want to be right there. And some kids are not as interested in being like where their peers are or whatever.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And I have to say, my youngest, he was about 10. And I think like when he was age 9 to 10, he wasn't real interested in anything. And I was worried.
Yep.
And then at some point it just kind of clicked and he became interested. And so I'm not saying that will happen for your child around that age. It might be much earlier. It might be much later.
The great thing about this age is that they can start to plan their own learning a lot, and they don't even know it's like learning or part of homeschool. But maybe they're planning a YouTube channel or something. That's a lot of learning that happens right there. Or
for sure,
writing books. They're writing their own books.
Yep,
that's amazing.
Yep, I have one doing that. Yes.
Yeah. Just those kind of things, or creating an art gallery.
Yep.
Those are all really, that could be a big chunk of their learning at this age.
Right.
Too.
Right. And then we are just so I'm clear about this, we are doing like a little bit of math.
Yes.
I would say it's in small chunks though. I would say like 15 minutes. We're not doing full hour-long lessons with lots of homework. We're doing like short 15-minute lessons, a few problems, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And if we have something come up, we might do it less that week.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. We're not making that up the next week.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yep. If something comes up, that doesn't mean we add it to another lesson or something. That's just, yeah, that just goes away. But, and I think that's probably the same for us with any, like with language arts and writing too. It's smaller stints. And as much as I can, I try to make it make sense in their lives. I kind of just don't want it to be completely out of the blue. Like, what does this have to do with anything? But, especially for writing, I want it to be something they're interested in doing. I want their buy-in. And so that does not always happen though. No. There are some times that we're just like, I just really want you to do this. This is important. And I just want you to learn it quick. And it's not going to take your life. It's just like, it's not going to take your whole life. This is just a small thing. Let's just do it. But that's a small percentage of our learning, I'd say. Very small. For sure. And then for us, like history and science, that kind of stuff happens a lot through videos, read alouds, podcasts, subscription boxes, kind of one-off experiments. Podcasts. We're exploring at this age. And it's not like a daily thing that I'm spending, a chunk of time on each day. It's more like maybe once a week, maybe once a month. I don't know. It's kind of whenever the time and interest happens. Yep. And that's better because they're going deeper and learning so much in a much smaller amount of time. They're just, it's just phenomenal how much they learn, really.
Yeah.
In those, when you're not like rigidly making sure it happens every day or something.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just so much more attainable to just take all that in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as they get into high school age, I mean, that's when they are hopefully still getting to engage with some of their interests, but they are probably doing more formal academics at that age. And it's hopefully because they have a goal of graduating from high school or like going into a certain career where you're going to need to learn, algebra or something, right? Yep. And so, I mean, that's the goal. I know very well that not every kid is so internally motivated, but I'm hopeful that what I'm trying to do is set my kids up when they're younger so that they will be internally motivated as they're older.
Yes. Yep. So true. All right. Should we move on to the next thing?
Let's move on.
All right. The next thing to keep in mind when setting up your homeschool for success is that it's important to share the responsibilities of keeping a home. This is part of homeschool and it really counts. It can be a big part of your homeschool too. We do this to help the kids learn these important tasks and chores and to make it sustainable for parents. This is really key. I mean, both. These are like both very important things. Number one, for our kids to learn that, they're part in the family, they're part in a community, the responsibility and how it feels when you contribute. And just the skill of cleaning a toilet or whatever it is. But just as importantly, this sustainability part for parents. This is so important. And we want you to feel like I can continue to do this. I can handle this. This is not all on me.
Right. And we are actually going to talk about this in one of the future sessions in more in depth about how to make homeschool sustainable. But for right now, you are all probably parents listening to this. I'm going to assume, that it takes a lot to keep your household running, and it's not just like, making meals and doing laundry. those are two big things, but there are a ton of other seen and unseen things that are in your mind and you are holding and you are trying to do all day long. And what I don't want to happen for you is that you are holding all of those things, which is a full-time job.
Yeah.
And also trying to homeschool your kids as a separate thing. So what is better is if you can merge the two, and all of those household tasks and seen and unseen responsibilities are, for everybody, all the members of your household to contribute to equally, not just you. And so I know when they're younger, we are starting small in teaching them these things, and these things aren't necessarily very helpful to you when they're younger, but hopefully you can set it up and so that as they get older, these things are really helpful. They do make a big dent in the work that you are doing.
Absolutely.
Also, then you are doing your kids a huge favor. Huge favor. You hear about kids who go to college and have never done laundry before. You don't want that to be your child. Your child can do laundry. And they should be, and they want to feel like they're contributing.
Right. And the big advantage of homeschooling is that you have the time to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think we can so easily get caught up in, the busyness of life, especially when your kids are going to school 7 or 8 hours a day, to feel like, well, they already are doing so much. It would be, I would feel that. I would absolutely feel that.
Me
if
too.
my kids were that busy, I'd be like, I can't put
they don't have time for
on
chores.
them. That's too much. And so this is just such an opportunity. This is an opportunity to teach this kind of balanced, this balanced life where you do, a little schoolwork, a little home stuff. It's all part of life.
For sure.
And I have to say, like, when I have a child who says, "Mom, you shouldn't do that. I'll do it. You've been working so hard." I just feel like, oh my gosh, I have made it. I have made it in this world. That doesn't happen very often, number one. And number two, sometimes that's not always healthy because I think
it's not.
It can be like they feel guilty, or I don't want to feel like I'm making them feel guilty at all. Like that's also not a healthy, dynamic. But when I'm hoping, I always hope that it's because they see like they are part of this family and they can contribute, and we shouldn't put it all on one person in the family to do all these jobs. Like this household takes a lot of work to run. Right. And it shouldn't be one person. I mean, we do end up, I think, as whoever's the main maybe homeschool parent can sometimes be the main like delegator or organizer, which I think is probably a good thing. That's a good dynamic right there. It's good to have somebody in charge of who's doing what or whatever. But it shouldn't be the person in charge prying people to to do everything all the time, like pulling them or and so I think that is it can be a challenge, but like such a good thing, such an amazing learning experience.
For sure. I have to tell you, my kids, like I said, they're 15, 13, and 11. I feel like I've kind of made it. I don't want to.
Wow.
I don't want to speak too soon. Do not want to speak too soon. But I feel like I'm at the age they're at the age where their help is really helpful. It's really helpful. And because I've set it up that this is everybody's responsibility, well, I've tried to set it up that way.
Yes.
I have failed many times in that area. Like I have done too much. And but because I've tried to have that be the message, I think they are taking that seriously.
Yeah.
They really are. And I feel like life is easier because of that. When we all 5 of us in my family are taking equal responsibility and doing our share.
Right. I think about it. I mean, I think I remember when our kids were younger and let's say it was family movie night. I'm thinking about that because it was last night for us. And it used to be that the kids by that point were like so tired and checked out and so young, like not super helpful anyway. So they could like maybe get their plates over to the sink after dinner.
Yeah.
And that was like a really good chore for them and a good thing to practice, right? When they're younger. And last night I just said, we can't start movie night until the house is clean. Like the house. And I don't mean like I don't mean to perfection, but I mean like the kitchen needs to be clean, and there were like a couple other things. I was like, the entryway's a mess. Can we just like do there were like 3 or 4 things. And everybody just went at it and finished it. And we got to enjoy movie night together, and it was
nice.
was really great. Yeah. And so I think that's like the spectrum of like of sharing the responsibilities from it can be taking your plate to the sink to just doing it just being an integral part of it.
Right. And I have to say too, I have to expand that this for me is probably more important than academics. I mean, it's at least just as important. We all talk about, we've all said things like, why don't they teach budgeting in high school? Or why don't they teach like, childcare or laundry or whatever in school, right? We've all said stuff like that because that's the important stuff, right? And I feel like you said, as homeschoolers, we have an advantage. We are home. We have more time because in school, they don't have the time for this. They're teaching 30 kids at once in one class. It is impossible for them to find the time for all the things that are necessary. Right. So we can do academics in a shorter amount of time, and then we can spend time on, daily life responsibilities.
Yes.
And I really take that seriously.
And I have to say, it's easy to get into this trap also of thinking that's going to take away from the academics. My kids aren't going to have the energy for all the lessons I planned or whatever. And I just have to say, this isn't taking away from any learning. This is learning. This is the learning. So even for older kids, there's such rich learning in this, and it is not to be missed.
Right.
Do not miss this.
I do have to also say you might try a system and it doesn't work and you need to try something else. And that is okay too. Like absolutely. I have shared on our podcast before that for a few years, my kids did one chore every morning. Before we started our academics. And that I realized after a couple years, it took me really long to realize this, that was not working because they were not excited to do that chore. And so they lollygagged around all morning, not wanting to do their chore to get to the other stuff that we were doing. Yeah. I also realized that my husband is really into chores and like... and like having them do teaching them household tasks. That's his thing. Right. And so I thought, why am I trying to put all of my energy into this? And so I like delegated to him. I said, could you please be in charge of our kids and their like household responsibilities? And he said, I'd love to. And now they do it like at night or on the weekends or at different times when I'm not trying to, it's not like from my prime time at 9 a.m. And so I just have to say that like, it is super important, but it doesn't have to be like the first thing in the morning, or if it's not working for you a certain way, it could work a different way. Maybe
there's so many ways this could happen. Absolutely. And I also have to say, we have to be very careful about what we expect our kids to do. This is so different for every child. And if you are feeling if you are getting a lot of pushback, it might be because they aren't ready for that thing, or it's like really hard for them. This one certain task might be just not their thing. And so they may have to do a little bit less of the thing that they really hate doing. And that's okay. Like they might be, like I said, I have a child who really loves cooking meals, and she's really doesn't like a few other things. And so sometimes I'm like, you know what? You worked so hard on cooking this meal today, planning it, ordering all the food, cooking it. I feel like that if you're not great at something else, you still have to do it, but I'm not going to make you do it all the time. You know what I mean? There are some things that are just, they gravitate towards, and I think that's really awesome.
Right.
I have a child.
It's okay for your kids to go work with their strengths. It's okay to work with your kids' strengths.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say I have a child who is great at doing lawn work. like just great at it. I mean, I can't say loves it, doesn't love it, really great at it, and doesn't complain about it. You know, if I say this is happening today, they'll just go and do it. And I have to say, and then other kids who just, it's like pulling teeth to get them outside to do the same thing. So I think it's good to, for sure, I don't want to put people in their little lanes and just say you're always going to do this thing. But I also want to just be flexible with that and say, listen, I'm not going to push you all the time on this one thing that you really, really hate doing. Right. And then also just maturity wise and developmental wise, it's really important not to expect, well, I read in this book that 5-year-olds should be able to do these, clean up their room, after every activity or something. I mean, there were times where I had to let that kind of stuff go and just be like, my child is just not there. It's just not there. And that is okay. It is okay. Just know your child. Find out what is sustainable for them. What is sustainable? What's something, that helps them feel good about the way they're contributing to the family and that they can do, that they can do. And, doesn't drain all their energy.
Right. And it might not look like here's your daily chore.
Right.
It might look like, hey, dinner's done. We're all cleaning up. Let's work together. It might just look like this is what everybody's doing right now. Everybody is pulling weeds right now. This is what we're doing. Yeah. So it might not look like I need to do my daily chore and check it off. It might look like that sometimes.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And this is where it's so personal. It could be whatever works for your family. But if you want some things to go by here, when my kids were younger, and we like to say maybe up to 3rd grade, but I don't know. This is all just very subjective. But they did a lot of wiping the surfaces, wiping counters, tables, the bathroom sink, that kind of stuff. Spraying and wiping mirrors. That was a great thing for them to do when they were younger. Helping with meal prep. I mean, just being around and doing whatever I was doing to get ready. And that was sometimes maybe 5 minutes of a meal prep, not the whole meal. Picking up toys. But I have to say also that wasn't always, in all the books, I think people would tell me that you need to, when they're done with something, put it away and then do the next thing. That did not work for my family. It never worked for my family. We picked sometimes certain times during the day when it was time to clean up. So maybe twice a day we would just clean up whatever was happening. So that worked best for us. So. Yeah.
They also at that age can do a little bit of dishwasher stuff, either loading or unloading stuff from the dishwasher. My kids I started them early on laundry. I know that's not for everybody, but it was important to me to do that. And so I started them early with a step stool and showing them how to put soap in and kind of giving them that responsibility of being in charge of their clothes.
So great, because that is really a big one for parents. For the one parent who's home.
And I don't even worry. It's nice now that they're older. I don't even worry about laundry. If they don't have anything to wear, it's not my
This
problem.
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing with homeschooling. I feel like because we're home, it doesn't really even affect me if they don't have enough clothes. A lot of times it's it hurts them more than it hurts me.
Yeah. Right.
So it's definitely like just this natural consequence for them.
Yes. Yep.
I don't care if they wear pajamas all day or what they wore yesterday.
Right.
So for some older kids, maybe like 4th through 8th grade, maybe around there, they can maybe start making some simple meals. I have a child who loves to make spaghetti all the time. We eat a lot of spaghetti here, but I think that's
a good starter meal.
It's a great starter meal. So those kind of things are great.
Yeah.
Maybe garbage and recycling. That's another great one. To start at this age. Now it doesn't have to be, and this is where we have to be careful, and we don't say like you're 100% in charge of garbage and you're just doing all the garbage and you know what I mean? Like this goes in steps. So, however you want to work that.
Right. Right. Another thing I give my kids is sometimes special organizing projects. Like, hey, could you reorganize the bookshelf, or could you straighten the pantry, or could you clean out that silverware drawer, or like my husband, like I said, he's really good at this type of thing, and he thinks of things I wouldn't think of that are important to him, like, could you dust all of the windowsills because there's dog hair all over them, or could you tighten the bar stool screws so that the stools aren't wiggly, or things like that that we all do, but don't think of.
I love
don't think of having your kids
I love
help.
that. I think that's really great because that is not a regular thing. It's like they just do it once, and it seems more like
exciting
than doing the same thing every day for a week or a month or whatever.
Right.
I love that. And I wish I could think. I need your husband's list.
Yeah.
Let's just say. For older kids, high schoolers, let's say, maybe I would just say, you have the high schooler, but
and she does anything I can do, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say anything an adult can do, but maybe you might just need, because it's a higher level skill, you maybe just need to teach it first.
Yeah.
This is how I want it done. Or whatever. And so, but high schoolers have so much independence. I mean, they're almost adults.
Yep. And they're going to need to do this anyway when they leave your house.
Yeah.
So they are going to need good practice. This is good for them.
Yes.
This is hard work. Figuring this stuff out for your kids and being the delegator and manager. And I know that a lot of times it's just easier to do it yourself, especially when your kids are younger, or if your kids are whining about it. I fully understand that. And sometimes I do just do it myself. Like I've done that before.
Absolutely.
But this is why you count it as homeschooling, because you're working really hard and you're training them, and they are going to benefit from this later. And these are skills they need. And so you count this as homeschooling.
Absolutely. Yes, they're becoming independent human beings. They're learning how to live life.
Right. And we're training them to not be dependent on us.
Right.
We don't want them to be
roommate
dependent.
or their spouse. Or something, So this is life. This is life.
Right. All right. Well, I think we're done with our 3 sections.
Yeah.
But to wrap things up,
meaty.
in this class, we talked about how kids are learning all the time and gave you some examples so you can begin to value natural learning over formal academics. Then we talked about how to add in academics slowly and appropriately for each kid. And last, we talked about dividing up household responsibilities. I messed that up last time too. And how that is such a good investment in our kids' learning, and not just academically, but lifelong skills. If you are interested in going deeper, we recommend joining us on Patreon for the next 2 classes in this Back to School Summit. The next class is called Make Your Homeschool Sustainable. And there we're going to talk about how to honor your child's interests and learning styles, leaning into your strengths, and self-care. The third class is called The Practical Side, where we'll talk about setting up a routine, setting up your space, and some of our favorite resources. Also, in the show notes of this episode, you'll find a few recommended podcast episodes that pair well with this topic.
Yes. So, lastly, if this class has been helpful, please let your homeschool communities know about us. Either your online communities, a Facebook group, or any other kind of online thing, or your in real life friends who homeschool. Let them know that they can listen to this first class for free by going to homeschoolunrefined.com or in any of your favorite podcast apps. Thank you so much for listening.